What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for joining me for another episode where I get to sit down and learn more about some incredible humans. Today's story is all about Alexa Santos, also known as Alexa What's for Dinner on her social media channels. She was formerly a TV news reporter. Her and I both met in Green Bay, Wisconsin at WLUK FOX11. Since being a TV news reporter, she has left to go on her own and has created viral videos in the food industry under her brand Alexa What's for Dinner. We dive into what it has looked like for success, going from being able to apply for food stamps to now having this great financial freedom, and truly what it's like being an influencer in an ever changing industry with TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and what success means for her and having imposter syndrome. She opens up about the journey from being a TV news reporter to being a freelancer on her own under her own business umbrella. And it's just a really great, transparent conversation and hopefully gives you guys more insight into what that journey was like. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, send this to a friend, help the channel grow. And without any further ado, let's welcome in Alexa Santos.
Your setup is like so nice. I'm like,
It's funny because people think that this is a fake background. They don't believe that this is like a real fireplace, but it is.
but also like your light and your microphone, everything looks very legit.
Oh,
Look at you.
thanks. I learned a couple thing when I was
You
in TV, I
did?
guess.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I'm just rocking with natural light and a prayer. And hoping for the best.
We're always hoping for the best.
Yes.
Alexa, it has been, we just said almost a decade since
Almost a
we've seen
decade.
each other in real life. How have you been?
Oh man, what a loaded question. I've been good. It's been like a lot of ups and downs, a lot of crazy things, a lot of career changes, a lot of life pivots, a lot of relocations, heartbreaks, cats. The my cat will walk through at some point. So the first cat I actually got from the Fox Valley Humane Association.
And it's
And
followed you all the way till
yeah, she's been with me this
now?
whole time. Yeah, so she's like 9 or something now because she was, I think, 6 months when I first got her. And so she's been with me that whole time. She's seen it all. I think I've lived in, you know how it is with us. Like, we never live in one place for more than like a year or two. It's exhausting. I would love to like have my life completely figured out, but we're not quite there yet. But we are, it's good, you know? It's been like, obviously, COVID came during that time too, so a lot has changed in the world and with our own lives, and I feel like it's just, yeah, it kind of feels like that. I don't know if you've seen that meme that's like, people born from 1995 to 2000, how are you holding up? And you're like melting, like burning in a fire.
Accurate.
Like, so a little bit of that, but a little bit of like making the best of it and just like enjoying everything and being along for the ride and trying to like keep a glass half full mentality and like watch the craziness happening in the world. Oh, here she is. I told you. So this is my Fox Valley baby.
Oh, what's her name?
Her name is Buttercup, but she was born
Kisses, I love her.
She was born in Kaukauna. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God.
On BT. And I actually was so like embarrassed when I saw on her paperwork that she was from Kaukauna because I was like, oh, it's like the worst one too. It like smells
The
like
smelly
sewage.
town. Yeah, I will never forget like driving to a story and being on the highway and just like having to plug my nose. Yeah.
Hit you. What did it smell like? It was like sewage. Like
It was ass. It smelled
was
like straight
so
ass.
bad. So she's from there, I guess, is where they found her, and then the Fox Valley Humane Association rescued her, and I got her in like 2016. So she's an old girl, but she's my best friend.
Oldie but a goodie.
For everything. So very she's a good mascot for our conversation.
Oh, it's bringing us back. So, okay, for people who are just watching this, they're like, okay, who the heck is Alexa? Why is she on the channel right now? What's the connection? So let's start at the beginning. Both of us were TV reporters. We met each other in Green Bay, Wisconsin when we worked at Fox 11. How many TV stations had you worked at before that?
That was my first one, actually. So I studied journalism at Northwestern, and then Julie, our news director, hired me right out of school because I had done an internship at NBC 26. So in
The
our old event,
competitor.
yeah, literally. So I had worked for the competitor as a college student there. That was like a program that Northwestern had. And you know how it was. I was kind of like the first one who they were like, ooh, we can hire super young people and pay them really badly.
Can I
So
ask you, what was your salary right out of college?
it
What was it
was
there?
30K right out of college,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I remember so vividly going to the Fox Valley Mall or something and seeing like a sign outside of Panda Express saying that they were hiring for managers starting at 40K a year. And I was like, why did I get a
Huh.
journalism why did I get a journalism degree from a top prestigious university when I'm making so little money I could be on food stamps? I remember so vividly also like where you remember where the bureau was in the
Of
valley
course.
was right across from the Chipotle, and it was like the bat signal to me like every day, and I was like, oh my god, the way I want Chipotle biblically. But it was like, $10, and I cannot express enough how poor we
Mhm.
were. Like I was like I my apartment in Grand Chute was $750 a month, and obviously I had a car and whatever student loans and bills and everything. Like the margins were razor thin. Like treating myself to Chipotle, I remember, was like a once a week thing I would do on Fridays. And Alex Ronaldo, my coworker, like she'd be like, "Oh, it's Chipotle day." Like I would treat myself to like the $10 of Chipotle once a week. And other than that, I would go to Festival Foods and spend $50 on groceries. And that's actually, we'll get into this. That's kind of how I learned to cook, honestly, was like grocery shopping at Festival Foods and trying to like make recipes that were affordable and like learning how to shop for myself. Because for people who don't know, when you are wanting to be, when you're an aspiring TV news reporter, you really have to start in like a small town in the middle of nowhere. You can't like be 22 years old and get hired at CNN as a reporter. I mean, you could be a producer or something, but if you're going to be on air talent, you need to be in a smaller town. So that's why, of course, the salaries are low. You're kind of like in the middle of nowhere. So I, like you, of course, probably knew no one in
Mhm.
Green Bay, Wisconsin. I grew up in South Florida. I went to college in Chicago. I had no connection to Wisconsin other than, okay, it's only 3 hours away from Chicago. I guess I'll drive to the city and see my friends and have like a life there, I guess. But I knew nobody. So I was living completely on my own, not to mention I was in the bureau. So I didn't
Yeah,
even
that was super secluded. Like, you
I
didn't
didn't
even
even
get
have
to hang out with the rest of us that were in the Green Bay location.
yeah, no, I had nobody. So I was completely alone in my one bedroom tiny apartment, like trying to figure out how to like stretch $50 worth of groceries and make dinners for myself every night. So that was literally like kind of when this all started. But at that time, I was just really broke, hungry, and like
Yeah.
wanting to live and just like get by. So yeah, that was like very iconic that like Chipotle was my like big like treat yourself once a week. I could get Chipotle. And that was it.
It's funny because I definitely have a similar experience because just hearing like the rent was 750, I think mine was like 550. But it comes with the caveat
Yeah.
that once people at the news station found out where I lived, they were like, "You live there? Do you know that the Green Bay police are there all of the time busting people for drugs, for sex trafficking? Like they find dirty mattresses just like all in vacant apartment complexes, and
Oh,
that's where I lived.
cute.
So,
So did
yeah.
you get like scene footage too? Probably like
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I
I
bet
was their on-campus reporter for the shitty apartments.
no, literally, you were probably like going in because like Lauren worked the morning show, so you were probably like waking up and there was like scenes, and you're probably like
Mhm.
on your way to work and like grabbing scene footage in the middle of the night. Like,
Or I would call Mike, Photog Mike, and be like, "Hey, can you just meet me here? Like, I live here, so I'm just gonna meet you outside." Yeah, good
oh
times.
my
Yeah,
God.
because there was also a lot of, apartment fires over in
Okay,
that area for whatever reason.
naturally.
But
Yeah, that's all
yeah,
there is in Green Bay, Wisconsin is the Packers and apartment fires.
Yeah, that sums it up. I did love when we used to go up to Door County for stories. I would look forward to that.
I never really did that. I only think I went up
Mm,
because I was bottom. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So they had it like geographically designated where we worked. I was covering like the southern half of our geographic area, and Lauren was in the northern half. So I was kind of in Fond du Lac was where I would go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so you were there until you said about
20,
2018,
2017 is when I left.
20 Okay, and then you decided to take a TV job back in Southern Florida.
Yes.
The Fort Myers area, Wink. Were
Yeah.
you
So
at Wink?
yeah, I was in the Fort Myers Naples market, but I actually did the
That's a
same.
good market.
It was good. I did the same thing that I did at WLUK, where I took the bureau job, because the secret with the bureau job is that it's always 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. That's why I
Oh,
always took
why
the
did
bureau
I
job.
figure that out?
Yeah, that's why I always took the
Hmm.
bureau job, because I mean, well, Alex was night side, but in Fort Myers or whatever, like they were like, we have a bureau opening that's 9 to 6, or you can be at the main station and work weekends. And I was like, 9 to 6 in the bureau is great.
Easy decision.
Yeah, exactly. So I was always a bureau girl, which made me like hella independent, because I had no, like, if you're working on a story or whatever, you're like walking in the newsroom, you're like frazzled, whatever. Like, Andrew Lacombe is there, like, Gabrielle's there, like, they're helping you. They're like, oh, call this person, call that person. You had like Brian at the assignment desk, whatever. Literally, the bureau was me at my computer by myself, just like figuring it out.
You
Like,
didn't have any morning meetings and there was no like
but I'd be on the phone for 5 minutes, if that.
right.
Um, it was literally just like a call if something was like urgent, or like we needed to change what we were doing, we needed to go to a different story. But I was 22 years old in and I was by far the youngest one at the station, and just literally forced to figure it out. I had no choice but to just like trial by fire, just like make it happen, because I was by myself. So yeah, I mean, Alex would come in at 1:30 for her night side shift, but even still, like, I was like, okay, well, we're done. Like, we had, me and Jerry Van Handel literally just ripping it. Like, R.I.P. He's literally my guardian angel, and I can tell you about that later. That's a whole, like, crazy story, too. But yeah, just me and Jerry Van Handel ripping it. He would leave for the day at like 12 or 1, and then the next crew would come. I was just the only one. So, anyway, I think that really fostered like a sense of A, independence, and B, just kind of like, there's a lot of things that a news career is negative for, but it is actually really positive for creating like really scrappy, like deadline oriented, independent, like ballsy, like put yourself out there type individuals. Like, we don't take no for an answer. We like get
Yeah.
what we want. We like, it's the craziest like field to leave and then be like, oh yeah, I can do this, 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 and this, and this. Like, no problem. You're not going to see me break a sweat. This is a deadline that's due like in 2 hours. I don't care. Like, we used to have to show up at breaking news scenes. Say like you got to a fire and the evening news is on at 5 p.m. You get to a fire at 4:55. They say like, set up the TVU.
You're going live,
Go
whether you
live.
have info or not.
Just tell us what you see and what is happening. And you'd be standing there with a microphone like, yeah, we just got here. Yeah, as you can see, there's flames. There's some people walking by. They seem a little confused. We're also confused, but
It's hot. It's smoky. We'll update you in
we'll
20
update
minutes.
you as details become available. And that's the job. So like, and you're on live TV. And that was it. So like,
It's so funny when you break it down like that, because
you
it's
literally
that
are
is spot
making it
on.
up the whole time and just winging it, and you can't get stressed about like deadlines or having to think on your toes, think really quickly. And it's like, it created individuals like us who are like very, very scrappy and like so well suited for so many other careers. But it just, yeah, you wouldn't know unless you were in it, unless you knew what it was all about.
Well, it's so funny because as when I started thinking, I don't know that working in TV news is what my passion is anymore. In the back of my mind, I thought, but what skills do I have? Like,
Oh my,
I've worked in this very specific job, and it wasn't until I actually got out of television that I realized, oh my God, I am scrappy. I don't take no for an answer. I get the job done whether I know how I'm going to do it or not. I'm a people person. Like, you do have all of these other great skills
So many.
that I don't think you would have unless you worked under such intense circumstances that
You
you
would
do in TV.
Yeah, no, and then once, I mean, I'm sure this happened to you too, like once you kind of got into a different field, people were probably like, geez, like she's really just turning it out, huh? Like she doesn't need like help. Like I think that was kind of one of the biggest things is it wasn't negative feedback per se, but I did get feedback at various points in like my career, just like, wow, you really work in like a silo, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I don't need help. Like I don't need you.
Yeah.
Like I'll get it done. Like let me know what it is. If you have any questions, I'm here, you know? Just like so yeah, just figure it out. Like it's literally just like for lack of a better term, like fuck around and find out. Like you're just gonna do it. Like you're literally just gonna do it. And that's it. Like just make it happen every single day. Just make it happen. So that's I guess what we're doing. Right?
Do you remember then when that voice started to shift in your head that, okay, maybe this isn't my dream job? When did that start? And then how did it transition to eventually get
Oh,
you out?
I remember 1,000% the exact moment. So, as
Oh,
Lauren
good.
mentioned, I went to South Florida, and obviously big hurricane situation. I started my new job in the Fort Myers, Naples market, and 1 week later, Hurricane Irma made landfall on
Mm.
Naples. So, literally, I got to my new job. I think I had like 2 days of like, okay, yeah, here's the station, here's everybody, this is what's going on. Next day was like, oh, there's a hurricane coming, we're doing hurricane prep. And then maybe a day or two later, like, was live shots every hour on the hour, like hunkering down. And I remember they set us up in shifts. So I was in the bureau, so there was two of us. So they split us up into two 12-hour shifts because it was literally 24-hour coverage nonstop. As you know how it is with like a hurricane
Mhm.
coming or something like crazy like that, it's nonstop coverage. So I was the 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. reporter for the hurricane. And I would have to do a live hit every single hour. And we were just kind of like moving around, going to like shelters, trying to get all the stories that you need to get when you're covering something like that. And when the actual hurricane was hitting, they had like for county workers, like firefighters, EMS, whatever, like a county building, like the whatever it would be, like where the jail is, not the jail, but like where the courts are, like the big
Mhm.
county building. They called it an emergency operations center, and they had all the county workers like sleeping there. So we slept there because they, yeah. So we
Oh
brought
my
air
God.
mattresses, like granola bars, like whatever stuff you could get. I mean, when you're hunkering down for a hurricane, you go to the store and like you're just like, oh, okay, bars and like cans of soup. Like you don't even know what to do. I mean, I grew up in Florida, so it's not like I was super out of my comfort zone with being in a hurricane, but working through one is absolutely insane. Working through a hurricane and living through a hurricane are two completely different things. And you've
Mhm.
covered natural disasters and stuff like that. Working through them is so different. So I was sleeping in this emergency operations center in my 12 hours off each day and on an air mattress, like maybe, I don't know, just getting a night's sleep and then waking up and then getting right back into live shots. And because it was national news, they had like correspondents from NBC News, like
Mhm.
Gabe Gutierrez, and people. They had national correspondents there who were also staying at this operations center with us, just like on the floor. Like they were doing live hits for the Today Show and then coming back in. Like it was just nonstop. And I remember chatting with Gabe Gutierrez because he also went to Northwestern. And he was probably in his 30s at the time, like at the top of his field. You know, he's an NBC News correspondent. Like when you're doing what me and Lauren were doing, that was it. Like that was
Yeah, that's the
everything.
pinnacle.
That was as high as you could get, unless you were like literally Lester Holt on the news. Like
Right.
you to be a national correspondent, that's as high of a caliber as you could get doing what we were doing. And he's here in his 30s, has a wife and child at home, sleeping on the floor of an emergency operations center with me and all these firefighter whoever's in Naples, Florida, and doing live hits on the Today Show at 4 a.m. whatever, also doing nightly news the night before. And like this was his life, and he was talking to me about it and just telling me how obviously passionate you have to be about it to put up with all that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sleeping, you're traveling around, covering the worst things that are happening in the country at any given moment, and you have no life. He has a family and kids at home, and this is what he does every single day. Like, I mean, I'm sure he gets days off, but when you're like, how much?
But your schedule is never
Your
consistent.
schedule's never consistent. You're following the worst news all the time. You're not sleeping. You're not, like, you don't have a life, whatever. And I remember thinking, like, that's as good as it's gonna get. Like, that life is as good as it's gonna get. And so that was literally week 1 of my second TV news job. And of
How long
course,
was your contract that you signed?
3 years technically.
Oh my
3
God.
years for
Oh,
$36,000
yeah.
a year. And
Gross.
and it was really expensive there too. It wasn't like a cheap cost of living like Wisconsin. It was
No.
expensive. Like, I had to get a random roommate on Craigslist. I was so miserable. I was like, my relationship with alcohol was terrible. I was miserable. I was like seeing my family on the weekends, but that was it. That was bringing me like any joy. I hated work. It gave me so much anxiety going in. I was just like, I hate this. I remember like, and at least where we worked at Fox 11 was pretty middle of the road as far as like, of course, hard news and breaking news is important, but yeah, we can do fluff pieces. Something nice is happening, like cover
Feature mom and pop
like,
store
do a
opening
pretty
and
little thing, like something
yeah.
cute's happening
Yeah.
in this community. Go. My second station was only hard news. You could
Same.
not pitch a feature or a fun thing. Not
Politics, natural disaster, like crime.
controversy, like
Yep.
local.
That's how it was in Syracuse for me.
Yeah, like local, like municipality drama, like nothing, no features. So it's every day I'm out here trying to find the worst thing that's happening and then going like, you know how it is, something like, say a crime, in my apartment building right now, if I was a local news reporter, if a crime happened down the block or whatever, people, like, you'd be having to knock on random people's doors being like, hey, like, we heard that like so and so got murdered next door. Like, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Do you want to go on camera and tell us about it? Oh no, your cousin got killed in a car accident. We ran all these searches and found out that you're related to this person who died in a burning car blaze. Do you want to go on camera and talk about it, please? Because if you don't, my assignment manager is going to be mad at me and I'm going to get in trouble. And if you talk to the other station, I'm going to get in huge trouble and I'm going to hate myself. Like,
my stomach is hurting because this brings me back so much. Like,
yeah.
You really have to have a certain type of gut to want to do that kind of coverage.
Right. And so that's what you're doing every day. And then say you did it, you got so-and-so's wife who was murdered to talk to you on camera. Do you get like ooh, you did a really good job today? Or like, ooh, like, you get a raise, you've been doing such a good job. Like, nice, you did it. No, you get like okay, bye, and then come in the next day and do it again tomorrow.
Or, hey, why didn't you ask them this question?
Yeah.
Or, it's definitely not a culture that gives any positive reinforcement. It's always negative, or I guess you could say constructive, but there was no balance of getting any pats on the back.
No, you would never get like positive reinforcement ever. It would only be like, well, why did so-and-so talk to WBAY? Why did
the worst. I hated when that
worst
happened.
feeling in the world is finding out that like someone you needed to talk to for your story talked to another station. Like, so that's how it was. And I was miserable, like sick to my stomach every day, drinking too much, like not doing well. And then thinking about this conversation with Gabe Gutierrez during the hurricane, which was week 1, and being like, this is where it goes. You know, I'm in Fort Myers, Naples. Say, you know, from here I go to Miami, maybe from Miami to Chicago, who knows? It's only gonna be more hard news and more murder and more crime and more, like, it's never gonna be, unless I find some random little niche role somewhere where they have like a feature reporter or a lifestyle reporter or whatever, it's gonna be bad news all the time. So that was how it was. And that was obviously, you know, I left Green Bay in 2017. So this was probably like very early on in my job in 2017 that I was like, I don't know, like, I can't do this. Like, I'm really not well. And I think the good thing there was that my boss was kind of picking up on it and how like unhappy I was and how like not in it I was. So I think maybe in 2018 we started having like pretty honest conversations about me not being in it anymore. And I think at the end of the day, while they do like really rope you in with these long contracts in TV news, I think at the end of the day, there has to be some level of like self awareness of like, we can't force someone to work for us who doesn't want to work for us. We can't
Mhm.
force someone to go on the air live every day and like tell stories who doesn't care and who doesn't want to be here and who is very vastly unhappy and unwell, you know? So I think they started seeing that and like it was showing up in my work that I wasn't happy, and so eventually they cut me out. They let me go. They didn't
Wow,
fire
they
me, but
released you from your
they were,
contract?
yeah, I
Do
they
you know
did.
how rare that is?
It was really it was so special because it was literally just that. It was these like very types of honest conversations of me being like,
Yeah.
I'm not good. Like I don't. And of course, you know, they don't want, the reason they keep you in these contracts is because they don't want you moving around stations constantly. They don't want to constantly having to be filling
Train new
roles.
people and
Of
yeah.
course, no one wants to. Most people don't want to stay in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or you know what I mean. If
Unless
you
you work for the sports department and can cover the Packers, or if you're from the area or move there to dig your roots in. But yeah, most of us are transplants that it's just a
exactly,
stepping
you're just
stone.
if you could leave whenever you wanted, you'd stay there for 3 months and then leave. You would never stay, and then they'd have to constantly be hiring people. So that's why they give you these contracts. But yeah, I think it was they made the wise choice because it was showing up in my work. It wasn't like I wasn't doing as well as they wanted me to. It's not like I was failing, but they could see it. You know, I was live every day and they're like, where, like, just like dead behind the eyes, you know, like not giving what they wanted out of like, so they cut me out and let me go, and I obviously had to sign stuff saying I wasn't going to pursue TV news. So it was obvious. I was like, I want nothing to do. I was like, I am going to go somewhere so far away from this. Like, don't you worry. So they were like, you know what, sweetie, okay. So yeah, that was like maybe by the time we figured it out and negotiated and got it all figured out, maybe it was like early 2019. But yeah, they set me free, which was the nicest thing that anybody's ever done for me, honestly, because it changed everything after that.
But I think it's incredibly relatable that you even mentioned the relationship you had with alcohol, because I recently just did a YouTube show talking about how I would go from the bars to work because I worked the overnight shift, and it was the only way that I could keep a social life and keep my sanity, because I was so miserable telling these depressing stories, interviewing people who have had the worst
Worst
day of
day
their
of their
life, and I expect them to give me something because it's
on
my
cam
job. I
on
if I
camera, and
if I put
also
myself in that situation, can you imagine losing a loved one and then having somebody knock on your door to go
the
on camera?
microphone in your
I
face.
would give people the 2 birds and be like, "Get the F out of here."
Yeah.
But a lot of people didn't do that to us, and I'm grateful for it, but I also feel like slimy in a lot of ways, and
It
I
does
just couldn't
apply me a
be
lot.
slimy anymore.
I remember that too. I remember, I think one of the earlier, like when I was still at Fox 11, one of the earlier notions that I was like, this is not right was I think like a little boy drowned in a lake in like Oshkosh or something. And
Yeah, yeah.
on like July 4th, I remember, and I got sent to breaking news, and it was before they had like, we got there really fast because I think one of the Bryans heard it on the scanner. We got there pretty fast, and so they hadn't like taped off the scene at all, so we were like literally walking through like the houses, like we could see the lake, we were filming the lake or whatever, and like at this point family members are still freaking out. Like this is not like
Yeah.
an hour later, 2 hours later, this is like mid, like we were there in maybe 30 minutes from the time the police call came in. So like there's still like chaos abound, and family members are like on the ground of the lake like sobbing, and you're like there with a camera as their son just drowned in a lake on July 4th. And like I remember the neighbors kind of like eventually being like, you guys need to get out of here, like this is so messed up. And when we both were just like, I think it was me and Mike Moon, and we were just like,
Mhm.
we're so sorry, this is like literally our job. Like I was like, I don't want to be here either, like, and it was just kind of like, oof, like I don't want to be here. They don't want me here. I'm pretty sure the viewer doesn't give a shit if I'm bothering this random neighborhood who had a like fatal accidental drowning. Like, I'm not getting paid enough for this. No one at the station is thanking me for this. Like, nobody is like, this is not good for anybody. Like, there's no benefit to me, like, cashing in, not even cashing in, just like taking advantage or like really putting a spotlight on these people having the worst day of their entire life with a camera. It felt so gross, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, why are we here? This is horrible.
Well, and it's kind of twisted because if you think of news stories that are nominated for an Emmy or get in an award, a lot of the times it is those stories that pull at your heartstring, or that you were able to get that parent interview.
Yep.
So in a way, people do monetize off of people's trauma,
Of
people's
course.
worst
I mean, the
days.
state does. We're not. We were making barely minimum wage. I could have
Right.
been on food stamps. Like,
Same.
we're not cashing in. Like, the station is. They're selling advertisements or getting viewers to then sell advertisements. They're teasing it. They're saying coming up at 5, like a mother's heartfelt, tearful goodbye to her son who just died or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
And then they're getting viewers, and then they're turning that into ad revenue. And that's,
Do you remember how the sales department would get quarterly bonuses if we got the ratings, like
I
certain
don't think I
ratings,
could do
but
that. I was like,
but none
love.
of the reporters, anchors, none of us would ever get a bonus. So it was kind of like we're the ones out on the streets grinding away doing these terrible things, but it's the people in the sales department that are seeing the cash flow. But
Yeah,
eh,
it's a twisted system for sure, and I'm very glad that we're not in it anymore.
yes. Okay. We could honestly spend hours talking about
Yeah.
TV news, but I want to talk about the good things because
Yes.
where you are now. So you left TV around 2019.
18.
Did you have a job lined up, or what is that timeline of how you became,
Yeah.
the
It's actually,
social media star with food?
yes. So I basically, at that point, but by the time 2018 rolled around and I had started having those conversations of like, I don't want to do this anymore. This was very like, obviously pre TikTok, pre COVID, pre short form video, pre all that. It was very like Instagram, like, like overhead, like of food on the table. What, like, I knew, like, I was that foodie girl. Like I kind of alluded to earlier, I really learned how to cook, like fully
From
living
Festival
for,
Foods.
yeah, festival foods, buying like $50 worth of groceries and turning it into a week's worth of dinners and lunches. And yeah, I was always into food. My parents were both in the restaurant industry their whole careers, so it's
Oh,
like
I didn't know
I
that.
grew up with like an appreciation and understanding of food. I didn't like necessarily want to work in food service or anything like that, but when we did take your daughter to work day when I was 5 years old, I went to my mom's restaurant. I was a little hostess at, like, you know what I mean? That was, so I was always around it, and I always loved it, and I always like had some skills from my parents taught to me. And I'd be on the phone with them telling them what I was making for dinner. But I also was obsessed with restaurants. So like what I kind of mentioned with being only 3 hours away from Chicago was every weekend in Chicago, I'd be like in there trying to like take advantage of, oh, the restaurant scene there, because that was not something they had in Green Bay, Wisconsin, was an exciting restaurant scene. So
No.
because I went to college in Chicago and then was visiting every weekend, I was in a long-term relationship with a man who lived in Chicago. A man, we were 22, but a boy,
An adult boy.
yeah, my college boyfriend at the time, who still lived in Chicago. I was going out to restaurants with him. He was in consulting, so he had like money. We could go to nice restaurants. I obviously couldn't afford shit, so
Yeah.
I was really enjoying the restaurant scene and like learning about it and like trying new things. And like in that era of like 2016 to 2019, where it was like, I don't know, rainbow bagels and like whatever cruffins and like
Yeah.
the Dominique Ansel like cookie shot with milk in the middle, all these like viral Instagram, like Facebook, like BuzzFeed Tasty was all the rage. I was like, that's what I want. I'm like obsessed with food, and like I'm always the one who's like setting up restaurant reservations or like being really particular about what we order at the restaurant. It's like my favorite thing. Like every restaurant I go to, I'm taking a picture of every dish and sending it to my family. I'm like cooking all my meals. Like I was really into it. And I was like, well, I've been a TV news reporter for almost 5 years now. Why can't I just do like food reporting? Like, why wouldn't like Eater or BuzzFeed
Love
Taste
it.
or like or Tastemade. Why wouldn't any of those places hire me? Spoiler alert, it is very hard to transition from a completely different line of work into something like you're qualified and you know that you can do it, but the resume isn't there. You're like,
Mhm.
okay, so you worked at a TV news station for 4 years, like okay, like did you go to culinary school? Have you worked in food media? Have you ever been a food stylist? Have you ever been a culinary producer? No to any of those things. So pretty early on, like before I even left my job is when I like created Alexa What's for Dinner, and I was just posting those like really OG, like if you scroll back to the bottom, like the first posts are so cringe. It's literally just like a table at dinner with like 4 plates, or like me with like a glass of wine, like the whatever, just like super cringe, like old school Instagram vibes. But I was just trying to show like, hey, I can talk about food, I can post about food, like I like know what I'm talking about. So thus ensued, I moved to New York unemployed because everybody I talked to was like, you just gotta get here. You just gotta be there, you gotta network, you gotta like grind it out. And luckily I was still with my ex at the time who did move to New York, and so I wasn't like moving in on my own and having to live in like a studio apartment in the Bronx. You know, I did have a very long-term partner who was not like taking care of me, but like if I don't have the money to make rent this month, like I'll pay him back next month. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like kind of having some support there. And he was really supportive of my like goals and dreams and aspirations with this, and like knew in his bones that I could do it. We all did. My family knew, like we all knew like I can do this, but it took a long time of like freelancing. I was walking dogs. I was literally doing like random video pieces for like Food Insider or BuzzFeed Tasty for like almost no money, just like trying to get my foot in the door, like really, really grinding it out, like as much as you possibly can. And that's what I did until literally, obviously, COVID hit in 2020. And that threw a wrench in all the progress I had made. But finally, at the end of 2020 in October, is when I got hired by the Feed, which is a food media company. And they were looking for a food editor, which I'll give them a lot of credit. They saw my resume for what it was and kind of saw like, okay, we need someone who can, host branded videos for us. Like if Kellogg's comes to us with a sponsorship at the Feed and we need someone who can be on camera, like making stuff. Of course, I didn't go to culinary school, and of course, I had never worked in a restaurant like as a chef or anything like that. So they knew there was gonna like they were gonna have to help me with kind of like the culinary training a little bit, but they were like
Mhm.
the comfortability on camera, the like experience with media, the experience with interviewing people, the like I guess they saw me for what I was finally, which no one had up until that point. They really just didn't like no, BuzzFeed all they were like, okay, cool, like yeah, do this little freelance project for us and leave us alone. So I finally got a job in 2020 as a food editor at a food media company, which was like my dream job. I was so excited, and I did that. Got a promotion there, and then this is a whole other can of worms. But of course, in 2020, TikTok blew up. We were in the pandemic. Food talk, like short form video. Instagram started copying TikTok and created reels. It was like, okay, now this is what social media is. So I was working at a company that was making pretty much all their money through social media and having to adapt to these like ever evolving platforms. So I did it for them as an editor there, and I was running their TikTok account, like creating short form videos for them, like growing with the industry, learning what this was all about, and also really getting better at recipe development, how to film recipe videos, how to make short form content that's like gonna perform well. And then obviously at a certain point, I'm like, I should just start posting these too. Like, why, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm getting better at it. I know what I'm doing. I'm submitting however many videos a week I am for my job. Like, let me like recut it and post it myself. So that kind of happened, and then I got more and more consistent with it, like posting a lot and posting like stuff on my own, like taking my own time to make recipe videos or just try to find what would work. And I had so much experience talking to other creators about what was working for them, because a lot of my job there was to work with other creators and like collaborate with them in other ways. So I was like really in the back behind the scenes, like watching and learning, and like growing with it all. And then all of a sudden, after like really consistent posting, I think it was like 2022. So like, yeah, maybe almost 2 years of working at Feed, and learning and growing with this and posting and not really anything happening, but being like, it's okay, I have a job. Like this is,
Yeah.
let's just see. Finally it happened and my stuff took off. And yeah, from 2022 to 2023, it was like, whoa, okay, this is happening. 2023 was like, Alexa, what's for dinner is full time. We're doing this. And that year, like, I made unfathomable amounts of money. Like, I would never have it. Like,
let's go.
Yeah, literally from like, that's why I love this conversation when you tell it from the beginning, because it starts with me making less money than someone who worked at Panda Express and treating myself to Chipotle once a week to like, holy shit. We need a financial advisor. We need a payroll person. I have like a savings, like a crazy savings account. Like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, it literally, I mean, it was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I lived, at that point, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what's happening. It's not like I came from wealth where I was like kind of used to that at all. Like I just was like, it was so out of everybody's comfort zone, even my family. Like I had nothing to do with this money. So I would like take them out to a really nice dinner and they'd be like, oh my God, no. And I'm like, no, like I literally have nothing to do with this money. So yeah, it got really, really crazy. 2023 was bonkers. And of course, we can talk about this later or whatever. The industry is very volatile. It goes up and down. There's ebbs and flows. Like now that I'm back living in New York and my rent is insane, of course it's stressful every month. Like, but that year it was like almost, I don't even know what, like a movie montage of like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? So
is that from sponsorship deals or okay?
Yeah.
Like certain, like whether you partner up with a grocery store or somebody who has a recipe book, things like that.
Anything. Yeah. So I think my, like at that time was when I was going like the most viral consistently. So I think that's a lot of what I've learned too, is like, if you have a lot of traction in the algorithm, which is of course out of our control, but if you have a lot of traction and your videos are consistently doing really well, everyone and their mother wants to partner with you because they want like, Tito's vodka is like, oh my God, like her videos are doing excellent. Like, let's have her make a cocktail with Tito's. And then of course, if you're tagging Tito's, you're using it, it's brand awareness, it's whatever. And they're paying you. And then you find out pretty quickly in this line of work that you can make a lot of money doing that. A lot, like not anything that I was ever used to, like numbers that like I would have fainted at. Like my whole salary from my first job in Green Bay, Wisconsin for one video type. Like,
oh my freaking God. I would faint. I
literally didn't know what to do. It was insane. I mean, the industry has gotten way more competitive and the rates are not like that.
Different. Yeah.
2023 was a crazy time. It was like before the big recession, like the roaring 20s. It was like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was before, there wasn't as many of us. There wasn't as much competitiveness with it, and there wasn't as much like volatility in I mean, I guess the economy was volatile. I don't know, but it's gotten crazier. That was like a short-lived like big like roaring 20s, but it was getting really insane and I had no idea what to do with it. So yeah, it's all like brands who think that they'll make their money back from paying you to get out that brand. I mean, it's the same thing as a commercial. So it's if a brand, wants to pay for a commercial on TV, or they can pay probably 5% of that amount to an influencer who is going to like peddle their product, and like an influencer for the most part has an audience that like really trusts them. So as like TikTok and short form video and like content creators as a job has like unfolded and unraveled, and this whole economy has exploded out of basically that. Essentially it exploded out of, okay, it was 2020 and everybody got on TikTok. That's what created an entire creator economy, because now every platform has short form video. There's Reels, YouTube Shorts, Snapchat Spotlight, Pinterest Idea Pins, Facebook Reels. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's dozens of platforms that you
Wow.
can post short form videos on that are basically trying to replicate TikTok and the same like viral
Swipe
element.
through.
Like
Yeah.
you have a For You page, someone you don't know that or you've never seen and that you don't follow went viral. So now you're seeing their video of how to make banana pancakes. Oh, this person likes cooking and banana pancakes. Let's show them another video about like how to make something with pancakes. Oh, they liked that one too. Let's show them more breakfast ideas. That For You page and how it's so curated to like what you like and what you engage with. That's what every single app has been trying to replicate. So it created everything. So now like no one's going to come to my page who wants like CrossFit ideas. People who are coming
Right.
to my page want easy recipe ideas. So it's such a blessing and a curse because when you go viral for one thing, you have to keep doing that thing. You can't, I mean, it takes years. Like I'm literally in the process of like a probably like years long attempt at like rebranding into a little more than just like viral recipe videos. Cause yeah,
What else?
I want to be more than that. I want to be more like, oh my God, this is my life in New York City. These are my cats. This is my
Yeah.
family. This is like my
I love when your dad makes
oh
appearances
my
in your
God, me too.
videos.
I'm
They're
obsessed with
amazing.
it. He would do it all the time if he lived here. Like when we lived in
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale, when I was still down there with them, he was in them all the time. Just like some more buy-in on like who I am, like who is Alexa, not just like literal like, you know, tight shots of food and like, oh yeah, it's the recipe, make this. Like just creating more buy-in because obviously that helps you sell more and it helps like create more revenue if you can sell. Now it's evolved into so much more where like, okay, yeah, link your sweater, link your pans, link your knives, link your cat tree, link your like, and people will buy it if they care about you. They're like, oh yeah, Alexa, like, oh my God, her cats look like they love that. Let me buy that cat tree. People don't care like that yet because I'm still just like recipe girl, but that's like what the goal is to kind of become one of those, I guess, I don't know, faces of like,
Lifestyle
oh,
with food and everything you. Like you're the character in this bigger picture.
right. Not just like, here's a recipe, here's a recipe, here's a recipe, you know, and that's a great way to do it. And it was working like that for me for a long time. It really was. But like I said, the industry has really evolved. I think brands want people who do have more of that like 360 approach and buy-in. I think that brands definitely want people who have like very active, engaged followings who will buy what they say to buy and who do
Yeah.
trust their recommendations a lot. And who, yeah, it's almost like it turns into like, oh, this is just a following. This is what I'm making money. Like you have to turn it into like a real fan base, like a real, like you are a trusted source for this. You are someone that they're going to go to when they need skincare ideas or whatever. Like if you're a beauty influencer or whatever, that's the whole name of the game because then it turns into something that was like really fun, making a lot of money. I was like living the dream, like doing what I wanted to do, making a ton of money doing it. And then all of a sudden it becomes a little dystopian. It becomes a little like, okay, now I need to like share more about myself, like open it up more, like get people to like me so much that they'll buy whatever I'm telling them to buy. And it's this almost like capitalist hellscape a little bit where you're like a cog in this like capitalist machine and like that's your goal is to sell things. All of a sudden like, yeah, I need brands. I need brands to come to me and like ask me to sell their product. I need like people to click on my Amazon storefront so I can make commission, whatever. It's like it becomes very dystopian like pretty fast. So that's the new chapter is like, whoa, what's going on? The world is crazy. It's a very competitive space to be in as a monetizing content creator. Very, very competitive. And yeah, just like figuring out like, oh, do we feel good peddling all these products? Like, is that my life's goal is to be a kind of a salesperson? Is that like, because that's how I make all my money if you think about it. I'm the same
Yeah.
now as the sales staff at WLUK. That's me. I'm like,
It is an interesting
I'm
comparison.
selling ads, but instead of selling it on a TV station, I'm selling it on my social media channels. And it's not like I would promote something that I didn't believe in or whatever, but when that's like your entire bread and butter is which brands are going to pay me to peddle their shit, then it's like, wait, what happened? Like, did we stray too far from the Lord's light? Like, what what happened?
Have there been any brands that you've said no to because they're not in line with whether you like their products or deep about their business and your morals or ethics aren't in line or anything like that?
It's a good question, and no, luckily, because I think food is pretty innocuous. I think
Yeah.
that like fashion and like other verticals are have a bit more like of that like troubling lore behind some things. Like it's not like I have Shein reaching out to me and I'm like, ooh, they're sus. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's like pretty innocuous. Like if let's say for example, like I have a long-standing partnership with like the US Dairy Board, so it's literally just like big dairy, like just like encouraging people to consume dairy products, which I'm all for. But if I was plant-based, I would say,
Wouldn't
you
make
know what I
sense.
mean? So like certain things like that, I could see potentially becoming an issue if I did follow like, kind of dietary things, or if I was really pro, like, not that I'm not pro this, but of course, like most of America doesn't have access to like local organic produce or like responsibly sourced whatever. Like I live in New York City. Obviously, a lot of people in California and, other places in the country do have access to stuff like that, but most don't. So I'm not going to sit here and turn down a deal with Walmart because they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I've done a deal with Walmart, of course. Like that's the country, it's a pretty wholesome niche that I am in, which is lucky that I'm kind of like, my whole thing is just like encouraging people to cook.
Sure.
Encourage people to go to the grocery store, buy some groceries, and make dinner. And so, yes, I'm sure there are a lot of products that are not like produced in the most ethical way or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's like food. It's not like a superfluous thing that you don't necessarily need. It's not like I'm like, oh yeah, like tanning beds, whatever. It's
Yeah.
literal food. Like
Everybody needs to eat to survive. Yeah.
exactly. And like so much of the country only has access to canned goods, or not canned goods, but like not
Certain types of
local.
food.
Yeah, not like
Yeah.
local farm fresh, like farmers market produce where everything is done like organically and sustainably. And that's just not realistic. I wish it was,
Yeah.
but that's just not realistic. So at the end of the day, I think I am in a niche where it is pretty easy to like not have any of those conflicts, but that's rare. I'm sure if you were like beauty or travel, or if you were like
Mhm.
encouraging like ridiculous like spend or kind of overconsumption, like those like get ready with me, da da da, and you have 17 serums and a mouth tape and a silk bonnet, and like that's a very different story than just like, yeah, buy Bush's baked beans so that you can make chili for dinner tonight.
Right, right.
So it's a little different, luckily. But
When
we'll see.
I look when I look at your videos, and again, uh, to go through all of them, you produce a lot of content, but I saw the one on dill pickle cream cheese that got 11.1 million views. On dill pickle cream cheese. Like, when you break it down to that, it's crazy to think that amount of people, the algorithm, were interested, love the recipe. What is the most views you've ever gotten on a video?
So I think the most I've ever gotten in video is probably like the pinned one at the top of my page with like the sushi waffle. I think that was
Oh,
like
yeah.
70 million or something like that. Crazy. Yeah, it is.
What is it like to watch the number go up?
It's cool. I mean, sometimes it's so good and it's so bad because I mean, that's actually something that TikTok was it lagging
It did for a
sec?
moment, but you're back.
Okay. That's actually something that TikTok has worked on, is trying to relieve the intensity of that like very intense dopamine hit type thing,
Mm.
where because content, it does kind of turn into a bit of almost like it's like a drug. It's
Yeah.
You can be so happy that something's doing so well, but then it's just like, okay, what about the next day? What about tomorrow's? Okay, now okay, that one did really well, and you can feel good about it for a little bit, but then you have 5, 10 flops, and then you don't feel
Mhm.
good anymore. Or you have, say your video is doing really well, but oh, it's not doing as well as so and so's who posted something really similar. Or oh, it's doing really well, but like I only gained like, I don't know, 20,000 followers. Like I can pull it up right now. I can tell you how many followers I got from a 60 million, um, what's it called, view video. And you're like, oh, well, that's not as many as I should have gotten for.
Yeah.
It's so easy to then start comparing yourself and then second guessing the success because that's just what it is. It's all out there. You can see like, well, so and so posted a video that only got 10 million views and they only had 400,000 followers before that. And it looks like they got 50,000 from just that one video. It's like, it's never good enough. That's what it is.
Mm.
It's like, it's exciting and it's great and it's amazing when a video goes viral, but it's just like never enough. That's the thing. You'll learn that the more content creators you talk to, nobody's happy. Nobody's like, oh, we did it, we're great, we succeeded. Everybody's just like, oh, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, like I'm struggling with this, like so and so's doing way better, like I don't know if I like what like it's such a like mental. I think the case studies that will come out from this generation of what happened with this creator economy and how this turned into this life for so many people will be fascinating. Like the mental health and the psychology of all of this is bonkers. And I have a lot of content creator friends that we're all in the exact same boat. But anyway, yeah, so this is, it says it's 67 million views and I got 59,000 followers from it. So that's what, less than 1,000 per million? It should be more. You know what I mean?
But that's the interesting thing, and I'm curious, like, having this conversation, then how do you define your success? Because a lot of the time people define success based on metrics or data, but with an industry like this, I don't think anybody would be happy if you use that as a definition of success. So then what is your definition?
Oh God, that's such a good question. I wish I knew because it's like you think, you set these goals and you're like, oh, I'll be happy if I make X amount of money this year, or I'll be
Yeah.
happy if I hit this following this year, or I'll be happy if these 3 brands decide to work with me this year. Like you can set actionable goals, and I have that, from New Year's resolutions or whatever, like what you want. But the thing is with this line of work specifically is there's no ceiling and there's no floor. I can make $0 this year. I could make $17 million this year. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's the Wild West. And so it's like if you set this goal, it
Mm.
always climbs, Like I could say, oh, I really want to hit 500K by the end of the year. And I could do that and I can be so excited about it. But then I'm like, okay, well now I really want to hit 1 million. It's always, the ceiling always moves. And so I think for me right now, as I have been doing this full time now, I've been 2 full years full time on this, and I have learned enough and watched enough and grown enough internally that I can accept that like getting through the year with like green on growth, like the algorithm has changed a lot. So at this point to be like green on growth would be great. Like to not lose followers, like have it be like a significant amount that you grew and like were able to achieve with just video success and videos that are resonating with audiences and performing well for you. That's great growth. And then, of course, hitting financial benchmarks would be success, because now that I'm living in a very expensive apartment in New York City and kind of banking on myself and hoping that I can make this work for me, that's success, is to like hit my goals and be happy and like mentally well and kind of have that balance of I'm making money, I'm working, I'm growing my following. No, I'm not going to grow 7 million followers this year. It's not going to, like, getting more realistic with those goals and saying like, these are actionable. These are things that I can achieve. I'm not going to compare myself to people who are in completely different places than me. And I think having like a more holistic balanced approach to achieving those goals, that would be success. Like achieving the actual, real, tangible, not like fairy fantasy la la land of comparison goals, that's success. And it's hard. It's really hard because comparison is a huge issue in this line of work because it's always there.
Mhm.
It's always in your face. You're always seeing how well other people are doing, how well other people's videos are doing, how much they're growing. This brand worked with them. That brand reached out to me and I didn't get it and they got it. You know, it's so right now, success is like staying sane, keeping the roof over my head, being financially comfortable, and continuing to grow and not like stalling out because you have to keep your foot to the gas in this line of work. You can't stop. Once you stop, it's curtains. So keep it going. It's intense. No, it really is. It is very intense.
Well, then knowing that, and especially with content, you're right. You have to be consistent. It's hard to take a break or go on a vacation and not consistently be making content. So then what is that long-term play? Are you going to be making content into your 50s, into your 60s? And I know you're still young. Are you even 30 yet?
No, I'm 30. I'm turning 32 in May.
Oh, okay. For whatever reason, I thought you were much younger than me. You look very youthful and
Well,
you
thank you.
crush it at
I
life.
appreciate
Yeah.
it so much. No, yeah, I'm turning 32 in May. So yes, I am 32. That's such a good question. None of us know. I mean, there is no like 5 year, 10 year like visibility into
Yeah.
like what's even going to exist. You know, like I think this year, 2025 is a really interesting time to even have this conversation because 2 months ago, TikTok was gone. Remember?
Mhm.
Like they talked about banning TikTok this year. There's been a lot of like volatility with conversations happening at Meta, like which obviously is Facebook and Instagram. Is there going to be a new app that takes the floor and is always all of a sudden the actual new TikTok? You know, TikTok didn't exist 5 years ago, and it, like I kind of explained earlier in this conversation, completely changed everything. So,
Yeah.
what will be the thing? What is the platform that will take over? It's really hard to know or to answer like long-term questions, but I do know that I want to be like a prominent player in the food media space, and I want to like continue to show my personality and work with food, and I also want to continue like making money, making connections. I would love to honestly like revisit some of our old school like skill sets with like interviewing, and whether that's like me cooking with other chefs and like sharing their
Oh,
cultures
fun.
through my like interview type skills. You know, that's like a big goal of mine, is to incorporate that more into my workflow, is to kind of like tap back into those like old OG skills that we have, where like you and I both know like people are nervous when they go on camera. It's such a skill to be able to get people to open up and have warm, open, heartfelt conversations with you on camera. That's not an easy thing to do,
For
and not
sure.
everybody can do it. So basically, I would love to keep doing that and kind of bring that back because I know I'm good at it. I haven't done it because I've been so niched down into these like recipe style videos. But I know I'm good at it, and I know that there are like so many more stories to tell that are more interesting than me at home with my cats. And I would love to show that
But
and
people
get,
find that relatable and they do
of
enjoy
course,
that.
of course. So like a mix of both, and whether that's, I don't know, some type of YouTube series where I'm like shining a light on local chefs in whatever culture, whatever it may be. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe there is a new platform. Maybe it's a show on Peacock. I don't know. Like,
Mm.
what even is media anymore? Like, where is anybody going to be watching things in 10 years? We
Yeah,
don't
that's a
know.
good point.
But
Even
I
5 years, who knows?
exactly. But I do know that like food, storytelling, personality, like authenticity, and like making money are like the big five things that I want to continue to have, like whatever I do in my career. But like having the little thumbs up thing, having a very like legit line of sight into what that future looks like is like kind of impossible, because it's like we don't even like, are people gonna be watching things on Ray-Ban smart glasses? I don't know. You know, where is anybody gonna be watching things anymore? But yes, and I do know video obviously will be like, I don't see myself being like a literary or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see, it's not like I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna write a book. Like, no, like it's always gonna be video that I care about, and like you too as well. Like we're video people.
We are definitely video people, and having that human connection and being able to express yourself where you could see the body language and the human reaction. Um, I just think that it's so fascinating, especially to hear your story from the beginning up through now. But I also saw that you recently were at some Taco Bell convention of some sort. It looked like one big party, and I gotta ask, what was that?
Okay, so basically Taco Bell, I found out about it like a day before. It was
Are
in
you
Brooklyn.
sponsored by Taco Bell, or do
No,
you have a
I'm
deal
not.
with them?
I wish. I
Okay.
wasn't paid at all. I showed up for free. There was a lot of people who like were paid or flown out or like were paid by Taco Bell to do, you know, a brand deal and
Yeah.
post about that event and their new menu items. But basically what it was Taco Bell kind of tried to make it like the Apple like launch events where they like are like, these are all the new products we're unraveling or unleashing,
Oh
and
my
it was
god.
all Taco. So it was like a party. It was like a huge convention or a huge theater, amphitheater with a bunch of people and like music and like PowerPoints where they were like, "Ooh, what if we did like fried cheese, crispy queso Ritas?" And like the whole audience was like, "Yeah!" And they're like, "Oh, what if, okay, yeah, now we have this brand new Baja Blast is turning 21 this year. So we thought that it should be able to stay out later. So we're doing Baja Blast Midnight. So now they have a Baja Blast that's purple." And it's and it was sick. It was so fun, but it was so silly. It was just like kitschy, like trying to drum up buzz for Taco Bell's new menu items for 2025. And they obviously invited a bunch of creators and, like I said, paid a lot of people to be there, paid a lot of like prominent influencers to like post about the new menu items and just like drum up buzz for what people can get at Taco Bell in 2025. But that's a big part of like
Cool.
being, yeah, being in New York as a food content creator is a lot of like going to events, like networking, like trying new restaurants. You know, I think that that's a lot of why I moved back here, was because I wanted to have that like momentum under me with my career, which obviously is not a thing in a lot of other places, maybe like New York and LA, where they have like that type of fire for like events and gatherings for content creators and like things to do and people to meet that are in the same line of work. So yeah, that was just one of those. Honestly, that was literally just like another Tuesday for me. That was literally just Tuesday. I found out the day before, showed up to the event for free, was there for like an hour and a half, and then I split and had to go to a dinner. So that was like, but it was wild, and I didn't realize people like Taco Bell has a really avid fan base. So like these people, there was a lot of people in the crowd who were just regular people who waited in line and tried to go to this event, but they're all like jazzed as hell about the new menu items and like so pumped. And like there's like Taco Bell influencers or like Facebook groups where people share, like there's a really avid fan base. I'm sure there are for a lot of like, I think, I don't know, like Chili's, Raising Cane's, like
Mhm.
there's some places that have that. And so Taco Bell was really capitalizing on that and being like, let's drum up some buzz. And so yeah, they called it Live Moss Live. So instead of like, they were just trying to make it like the Apple launch thing, but for Taco Bell. So
That is so cool. Only in New York City could you have something like that, and like you said, just a normal Tuesday.
it was literally a Tuesday. Like I was there for an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, I gotta go. Gotta go to the next thing. But it was fun. I'm glad I went. It was. I didn't even try any of the new food because I had a dinner right after. So they had
Yeah.
all the new food there. Like after the presentation, you could try all the new menu items. But I was like, I was so late for my reservation too. I had to meet my friend at dinner. I was like 40 minutes late. I was so late, so I didn't even eat anything. But I heard it was good. I don't know. Go to Taco Bell and find out. I'm not even sponsored,
Right.
but go find out.
Oh my gosh, Alexa, it has been so much fun catching up with you.
I
I know that like this was kind of a selfish ask because I really just wanted to catch up with you as a friend, but also just hearing your journey. I think it's so inspiring to anybody out there who might be in a job that they are not passionate about anymore. And if you really do dig your heels in and have that belief in yourself that you might be doing these odd end jobs at first, but you're going to make it work, I think is really cool to hear the success and going from, maybe we'll call this episode from food stamps to financial freedom, you know?
No, literally, that's what it was. It
Like,
was so crazy. And no, I really appreciate you saying that. And I think what I kind of alluded to a bit in this conversation was like, of course, like, while it has been a really great success story, it does come with a lot of like pitfalls and like
mhm,
mental health questioning and like anxiety and like the ebbing and flowing and the comparison and the imposter syndrome and like all, you know, I think you obviously, I'm not comparing myself to like a celebrity or whatever, but you see celebrities that make it, and then you're like, why are they so unhappy? Why?
mhm,
It's I think that's been the biggest thing about this whole like character arc is that it really does open your eyes to the fact that like the success you always dreamed of isn't always everything you wanted it to be. And you still have to like be grounded in like what is important and like be grateful for the path and the journey that got you there, be the people who supported you along the way and like your roots and like your core and your values, because when you do have money flying in at you and you have made yourself into everything that you wanted to be a year ago, 2 years ago, it still isn't always perfect and it still like requires effort and therapy and like being grounded in like who you are and like what you came here to do. And like almost every like month I'm like crashing out and so anxious about like what am I doing, like I'm dropping the ball or like I'm not making enough money or I'm not making enough videos or my videos aren't doing well enough. Like it's so easy to get caught up in like the negative and the I'm not good enough.
mhm.
So even just having conversations like this and like finding those moments to like regroup and like reassess like what did get you there and what is important means a lot. And like I honestly feel like I was anxious as all get up the last like 2 days, like haven't been able to film, like have felt mentally like not good, but even just like having this conversation, revisiting that gratitude for that journey and that process that got me here, and like that just like means the world. So I appreciate you saying that, and like I needed that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here and just having this open conversation and even just hearing some of the stories of what it was like to work in TV news. And like for me, at least, there's been so few people that I can relate with that because they're either still in television or they are in something so completely different, like a desk job, where we
Yeah,
both are still working in media that I think our experience, as much as in the moment it really freaking sucked, it
yeah,
has set us up for so much success, and I think that that's really cool to hear other people talk about it.
yeah, no, absolutely. That's like we're out here fighting the good fight and like trying to like stay true to what like I don't know, like what our skill sets were and what our like accomplishments were and like what we wanted to do when we became TV news reporters, and like
Mhm.
shifting that into okay, stuff that actually makes us happy and brings us joy and are basically topics that we want to talk about and we want to interview people about and we want to make videos about and share information about and get people excited about, versus like, oh, this person's like son died in a tragic accident. You know what I mean? So
Yep. This is
kudos to
way
you too,
more
because
fulfilling.
yeah, kudos to you too, because I know how hard that is, and like you went on the same journey and like fought the same good fight to like stick to those roots, but also like making it more positive and fulfilling than just the bad hard news all the time.
Having more cups that are half full than half empty
Yeah.
is success enough in a lot
Yeah.
of ways.
We're doing it. We're doing it. But yeah, I mean, obviously, reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about anything. as we navigate this like crazy world of existence and like try to keep our heads on straight. That's the name of the game.
Yep. Just keep our heads on straight, have some sanity, give your cats and my dogs big snuggles and hugs, and see where life takes us.
No, 100%. You still have the big Samoyeds?
Yes, one of them, I'm not going to show you because my living room's a little bit of a mess right now, but he's just over to the side. And I have two now. You only met Saber, but now I
Yeah.
have
You have the
Miko.
lip. Yeah.
She just turned 5 yesterday. So she's in the bedroom. She loves to get in bed and get all cozy, and they're
Those big
great.
polar bears. They're so cute.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's like your
They
brand is
are
being
the best.
a Samoyed girl.
Yes. The girl with
Yeah,
the really big fluffy dogs, and you
yeah,
are the food cat lady.
that's it. Candy cat lady. That's like fine. Honestly, take that to the bank. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's great. Well,
But thank you
thank you
so much for
again.
having me. Yes.
I
Text me
can't wait to
anytime.
continue to follow your journey. I will link all of your social media accounts, everything, so people can see more about you. And we'll have to catch up again soon.
Yeah, no, literally.
Next time I'm in New York City or close by, I'm calling you, and we're
No,
gonna
you
we're gonna go
have to.
to some kind of convention or some good restaurant together.
Good restaurant, girl. That's still my favorite thing to do. That like that what the reason I got into this is still my favorite thing to do. It's just like going out to eat, like having good wine at a restaurant with good friends and like ordering half the menu. Like that's literally my favorite thing to do. People ask me what are my hobbies and I'm like food still. Like my hobby is my work too. So
Eating and drinking.
yeah, literally that's all I do. So yeah, come through anytime. It'll be so much fun once like the weather's warmer. Like
Oh yeah.
it's the spring vibes are so good right now in the city and like summer's gonna be even better. So yeah, you should definitely come down because it'll be really fun.
Okay. I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thanks, Alexa. Love you, girl.
Love you. I'll talk to you later.